Welcome to Daily Overdose.
I'm really on the side of the person that wants to do something positive with their life, to make their own life better, because I think that's where you should start. You should start by maximizing the quality of your own life. That's not a selfish thing, or if it is, it's the right kind of selfishness. And that you should figure out how to do that in a way that's of benefit to your friends and your family and your community, and you should take that deadly seriously. And the reason you should do that is because that just makes life better for everyone. And it reduces a fair bit of the misery that would otherwise be part and parcel of life, and it makes everything function smoothly. And one of the things I'm really curious about is what the world would be like if everybody decided to do that, because human beings are really remarkable creatures, and we hobble ourselves very badly with deception and resentment and revenge and the desire to make things worse and arrogance and all those sins, let's say, that make us deviate from our true path. And our true path should be something like, imagine the noblest aim that you can conceptualize and then sacrifice your life to attempting to attain it. And there's nothing in that that isn't good for everyone. And so, apart from the fact that it requires a lot of responsibility, I just can't see why everyone wouldn't do that.
So you gotta go to the truth first. Who are you? Get really accountable and say, okay, who am I? What's the truth about me? Get to that dark place in your mind. Figure out. It may take months, it may take years. Figure out your purpose. Figure out what you want to be in life. And then from there, okay, I have my purpose. It may take a long time. No one knows their purpose because it's too loud. Find your purpose. From there, all right, you gotta start planning. People love the planning phase because it's very comfortable. Then from the planning phase, you gotta go to execution. So the execution phase we all hate, because that's where the real work begins, and that's when the failure happens, and the failure. So that that's kind of how you have to do it.
There's a tremendous amount of stuff you got to change and do. You have been given the message over and over and over, even though it's not true, that you don't deserve it, that there's something wrong with you. If you don't, at some point, be defiant against what the world or your past experience has pounded into your brain incorrectly, unfairly, you will forever be stuck with that story. You are not responsible for what happened to you. You survived what happened to you. But you do have a responsibility to heal yourself and to do the work to change so that you can be the happy, fulfilled person that you were born to be. In a moment when you feel alone, you can give yourself the boost, the support, the empowerment that you need to keep going.
If it's important to you, you're going to find a way. You won't have to look for a resource. You will become resourceful. It's not always about the accomplishment. It's about the effort. If we can just keep the effort going, the excuse is irrelevant.
Responsibility. That's what gives life meaning. It's like lift a load. Then you can tolerate yourself, right? Because look at, you're useless, easily hurt, easily killed. Why should you have any self-respect? That's the story of the fall. Pick something up and carry it. Make it heavy enough so that you can think, yeah, well, useless as I am, at least I could move that from there to there. Well, what's really cool about that is that when I talk to these crowds about this, the men's eyes light up. And that's very, like, I've seen that phenomenon because I've been talking about this mythological material for a long time. And I can see when I'm watching crowds, people, their eyebrows lift, their eyes light up because I put something together for them. And that's what mythological stories do. So I'm not taking responsibility for that. That's what the stories do. So I say the story and people go click, 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 and their eyes light up. But this responsibility thing, that's a whole new order of this, is that young men are so hungry for that, it is unbelievable. And one of the things I've been talking to some of the people who've been running for the conservative leadership in Canada, and I've been talking to them about, well, the difficulties they have communicating with young people, because conservatives, what the hell are they going to sell to young people, right? Because being conservative is something that happens when you're older. They can sell responsibility.
I started realizing, man, just by going to war with myself every day and putting these challenges and these goals and these obstacles, these insurmountable obstacles. So it wasn't about losing 106 pounds. Me losing 5 pounds was an accomplishment. Me losing 10 pounds and then 50 pounds. And then the more I did this, the more I gained confidence. And then the more I gained confidence, the more I realized these Navy SEALs, man. These guys can't do what I'm doing right now. I had no coach, had no trainer, had no money. I didn't know how to lose weight. I had no knowledge of what I was doing. I was just working. I was just sacrificing. And then through that, all these different tools started coming up. But I would have never found these tools if I didn't put myself in a very uncomfortable place. We all look for toughness. We all want it, but we look for it in a comfortable environment. You will not find toughness in a comfortable environment. Those of you who are listening to this, whoever hear this, you will not find it. I will try and look for it everywhere. The only way you find it is to drown yourself in a position where you're just out of sorts, where you can't swim and you're drowning. Where you're drowning. You're drowning in life. But you say, you know what, man? I'm gonna figure out how to backstroke or something. I'm gonna figure out how to, and then through figuring out all these tools, your mind starts to, when you quit, your mind does this. Because you're out. Once you say, I'm not gonna quit, this is the 40%. When you quit, your mind says, we're done. So it doesn't expand. There's no expansion when you quit. When you say, F you, this sucks, I'm drowning, I'm miserable, I'm suffering, I'm broken, but I'm not going anywhere. What happens to your mind is it does this. It says, F, he's not leaving. So we gotta expand. We gotta grow. We gotta figure this thing out. So then these compartments in your brain start to they have to work. They have to work. And then you start to engage parts of your mind that you never engaged before. But you can't engage it by sitting back in these nice chairs, drinking this nice water, talking to you, talking about what I want to do. That's where the 40% thing comes in. It comes in when you're in suffer mode and you say, I'm not going to quit. You're forcing your brain now to operate on a level it's not used to, but then it becomes used to it.
Your inborn potential is extraordinary. You have within you right now the ability to achieve almost any goal that you can set for yourself. Your greatest responsibility to yourself is to invest the whatever time is required to become absolutely clear about exactly what it is you want and how you can best achieve it. The greater clarity you have regarding your true goals, the more of your potential you will unleash for good in your life. You have probably heard it said that the average person uses only 10 of his or her potential. The sad fact is that, according to Stanford University, the average person functions with only about 2 of his or her mental potential. The remainder just sits there in reserve, being saved up for some later time. This would be exactly as if your parents had left you a trust fund with $100,000 in it, but all you ever took out to spend was $2,000. The other $98,000 simply sat in the account unused throughout your life. The starting point of all goal attainment is desire. You must develop an intense, burning desire for your goals if you really want to achieve them. It is only when your desire becomes intense enough that you will have the energy and the internal drive to overcome all the obstacles that will arise. The good news is that almost anything that you want long enough and hard enough, you can ultimately achieve. The great oil billionaire H.L. Hunt was once asked the secret of success. He replied that success required 2 things and 2 things only. First, he said, you must know exactly what it is you want. Most people never make this decision. Second, he said, you must determine the price that you will have to pay to achieve it, and then get busy paying that price, setting goals, working toward them day by day, and ultimately achieving them is the key to happiness in life. Goal setting is so powerful that the very act of thinking about your goals makes you happy, even before you have taken the first step toward achieving them. To unlock and unleash your full potential, you should make a habit of daily goal setting and achieving for the rest of your life. You should develop a laser-like focus so that you are always thinking and talking about the things you want, rather than the things that you don't want. You must resolve from this moment on to be a goal-seeking organism, like a guided missile or a homing pigeon, moving unerringly toward the things that are important to you. There is no greater guarantee of a long, happy, healthy, and prosperous life than for you to be continually working on being, having and achieving more and more of the things you really want. Clear goals enable you to release your full potential for personal and professional success. Goals enable you to overcome any obstacle and to make your future unlimited.
Today, you will see this everywhere when people say, I am only human. They are talking about the limitations of being human. They are not talking about the possibilities of being human, isn't it? If we are the most intelligent species on the planet, if we are the most capable species on the planet, should we be talking about our possibilities or should we be talking about our limitations?
You are the sum total of all of the choices that you've made up until now. And anything about yourself or your life that you don't like or isn't working or is mobilizing you is to be looked at in terms of, can I grow? Rather than, why did I do it, or isn't this wrong? I don't like what I've done. I don't like the fact that I can't do this well or I can't do that well. So I will list these things in my own repertoire, and then I will be constantly trying to repair those deficiencies, always assuming that I'm deficient, that there's something wrong with me, and I'm trying to fix it. And when you do that, you spend your whole life doing that.
But in order to be the winner you were born to be, you must plan to win, you've got to prepare to win, and you must expect to win. And if you don't plan to win, and if you don't prepare to win, then you have no legitimate reason for expecting to win.
The way that we think about ourselves determines the policies that we embrace, the laws that we agree to live and abide under. Those are all based upon our story. So all of a sudden you see the battle for our story is front and center. I mean, what could be more important than that right now? So when we talk about that battle, there's a battle for who we are and the way that we think about ourselves.
You are creators who have come into this environment for the details that it evokes from you. But you are God force who insists upon alignment with the energy of your source. And it is our knowing that as you move forward from this day, never again will you feel negative emotion without blessing the importance of it. Because in the negative emotion is the indication that you are setting forth for this universe expansion. And instead of feeling a continuing of negative emotion, you're going to flip. You're going to take the bounce. You're going to feel the solution that your problem has pointed.
So then as you begin to think about a new possibility, and your brain begins to fire in new sequences and new patterns and new combinations, and you begin to plan your behaviors, and you begin to review in your mind, mentally rehearse who you're going to be in your life. The mere action of mental rehearsal begins to install the neurological circuits in your brain. Now your brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's in fact a map to the future. And if you were then to begin to emotionally embrace your future before it's made manifest, in other words, you're not waiting for your healing to feel wholeness. You're not waiting for your new relationship to feel love. You're not waiting for the mystical moment to feel awe. You're not waiting for your success to feel empowered. That's the old model of reality of cause and effect.
Many of you, as I have been, as I am, are where you are in your life based upon what you believe. And it's not just what you think you believe on the surface, it's also your shadow beliefs that are holding you back from moving into the life that you believe you deserve. What I know is if you're not looking at the shadows, if you're not looking at what is subconsciously running through the tape in your mind, telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not smart enough, you're not enough, which is a tape that's playing for a lot of people. If you're not conscious of that, then you end up acting out of that belief system. and not out of what you know to be the truest or want to be the truest for yourself.
How do you alter your mindset? The only path is through new awareness. You can receive advice all day long. Many people do. They love being told what to do. They're hooked on new books, new ideas, new lists. They learn and learn and learn in all directions except the one that matters most. Learning about themselves. There is no getting around this. It's hard to sustain new happiness without new awareness. You can go for the run, you can have the hard conversation, you can eat better food, you can wake up early, read at night, you can do it all. But does it make you happier? Deep down, long term, that's the metric. If it does, if you're happier, it's because you realize something new about yourself. The change was you. You recognized why your new habits shifted your outlook. It was about challenging your old mindset. We started with this idea that now was the time. It was the time to do more, to do better, to create the change and go for it, do it. If now is the time for change, make the change, but recognize what you are truly seeking. That your body may transform, your habits may improve, you may learn new ideas. But where did the change start? What was behind it all? It's always your mindset.
To control where awareness goes, we're controlling where energy is flowing. And if we're controlling where energy is flowing, we're controlling what's manifesting in our life. And this is a great secret to learn. This is something that I've learned in the monastery. My guru shared with me that's really changed my life. Because I've realized that all I need to do is control where my awareness goes. And if I can control where my awareness goes, I can control where my energy is flowing. And if I can control where my energy is flowing, I can control what is manifesting in my life. And therefore I can even choose to create positive things in my life or negative things in my life.
If you want to enjoy self-confidence on the outside, you must practice complete integrity on the inside. The foundation of self-confidence is for you to live your life consistent with your innermost values and principles, while thinking and acting in harmony with your highest aspirations. Men and women with the most solid self-confidence are those who are absolutely clear about what it is they believe to be right and good and worthwhile, and who live their lives consistent with these values. Everything they do or say is an expression of their innermost convictions. Your whole world can fall down around you, but as long as you know that you are doing the right thing, you will have a deep inner sense of calm that will manifest itself in an attitude of confidence and self. In an attitude of confidence and self-assurance in any situation. You will have many ups and downs in life. But what is most important is that you remain true to yourself. Your true values are only expressed in your actions, in what you do. You can tell what you truly believe by observing what you do in any situation in which you have to make a choice, especially when you are under stress and pulled in two directions at once, with opposing demands or responsibilities. This is when your true values are revealed. The action that you take in any given situation will tell you which of your values is uppermost or whether you have any values at all. It is not what you say, hope, wish, or intend, but only what you do that counts. Your choices of the actions you take tell you unerringly who you really are. You can develop within yourself a superb set of values by acting as though you already had those values. You can develop integrity and courage and compassion and confidence by behaving as though you already had these qualities. The more you act the part, especially when you demonstrate these qualities under stress or when you feel like doing or saying something else, the more rapidly these qualities become a permanent part of your mental makeup. The more you practice good values, the more rapidly you become a truly superior person. The keys to developing the unshakable self-confidence that will make everything else possible for you are self-control, self-mastery, and self-discipline. Self-confidence can come directly by behaving in a self-confident manner, but more often it comes indirectly by doing and saying the things and practicing the behaviors that lead to self-confidence. The most important self-development behavior is living consistently with your highest values at every opportunity. Appreciate how special you are. There will never be anyone exactly like you. You were given special gifts and talents to share with the world. And even though everybody has special gifts and talents, nobody will use theirs quite the same way you do. You have a way of being in the world and a perspective that's unique to you. You are the only one who thinks your thoughts the way you think them. You have created your own unique reality and are living your life according to your own unique path. You are the only you that will ever be. You're kind of a big deal.
What do you want in life? What's my purpose in life? Why am I here? What do I love? What am I passionate about? How many people can genuinely answer, this is my purpose in life? Very, very few people. Once you're clear with your purpose, you know what to concentrate on, and you know what to direct your finite amount of energy towards.
If you're conditioned, it's because you have allowed yourself to become that. And if we've conditioned ourselves to believe certain kinds of things, and one of the things that we kind of believe and hang on to and live with is this whole idea that all of the things that happened to me in my past are what are keeping me from doing what I'd like to do today. So we hang on to these things and we fill ourselves with blame.
You have some options. Here you are exploring the variety of your environment and coming into alignment with who you really are, and then allowing all of that to flow through you too. So in every moment in time, you have the option of focusing in a way that increases and enhances your alignment and your joy, which causes you to resonate with everything you put into your vortex, or something else. There really are not so many other choices, are there? You can focus on a problem. You can not have enough money and feel bad because you are attached to the money, or you can not have enough money and feel good as you're anticipating more coming. But the consequence or the circumstance of the money does not need to dictate to you how you feel. That is the problem with getting attached to something that you can't control, is that it leaves you like a puppet with no strings. It's about not putting your attachment in all the wrong places, not putting it in what is temporary, but putting it in what is steady. And then in that steady attachment or alignment, then you can just flow it to whatever is currently in your now, flowing through your experience.
You can't give away what you don't have. People who are not good at giving away love can't give away love because they don't have it to give away. If I want to give you a dozen oranges, I can't give you those dozen oranges unless I go out and pick up 12 oranges someplace. Otherwise, all it is just empty rhetoric. And the same thing is true of virtually everything in your life. You can't give away love for others if you don't have love in here to give away. If what you have in here is contempt, if what you have in here is anger, if what you have in here is fear, then these are the things you're going to be giving away in your life.
Every one of you are drawing a picture with your life. You're the artist. Your hands and your feet are the paintbrushes. And the choices and decisions you're making right now are the paint strokes. You can paint whatever picture you want to paint. You can become whatever you want to become. But your choices and decisions that you're making right now matter.
You got to have the grit and the tenacity to push forward and give it a little bit more than what you have right now.
Don't wait for the perfect timing. The perfect timing is never going to come because there's no such thing as perfect. There's never going to be a day where you wake up and you're like, this is the perfect day for me to finally change. All the things have lined up. My inbox is completely clear. I have nothing to do today. There's no distractions. The kids are finally perfectly on their own. Oh my gosh, my husband or wife is finally perfect on their own. Everybody is healthy around me. Everything is just perfect. The day is sunny and bright. And oh my gosh, look at all this gold that just happened to appear in front of me. It's not going to happen like that. You need to say, okay, there is never going to be a perfect time, so you need to set a D-Day. Literally, a day in which you say, that's the day. And then you need to marshal all of your motivation, all of your ability to learn and develop skills as fast as you can before that day. But when that day comes, that's D-Day. That's the day that you go. That's the day that you quit. And that has to be a real date for you. And mark it on the calendar. That's the day you quit the thing. That's the day you walk out. That's the day that you leave that situation that is not healthy or satisfying or good for you or your soul or the people around you. That you have to have that date. It has to be scheduled or you'll never do it. You'll just keep saying, oh, you know, one day things are gonna be, you know, the people who say one day, they end up at the end with a collection of days that were so far from perfect that they're in a state of misery now. They never landed in the land of their dreams because they were always marching in something that was miserable to them, right? At some point, the only way that life changes is that you change your course. And don't wait for a perfect day. So what's your date?
People who earn large incomes aren't lucky, and they're not crooks as those without money are so fond of pretending, nor are they endowed with more brains or talent necessarily than their friends and neighbors, nor are they privy to occult secrets, and only a very few were lucky enough to have had rich fathers or grandfathers. Most of the people earning the big incomes today started the same way you and I did, and most other people. The only difference between the men who earn big incomes and those who earn small incomes is that those earning big incomes decided to earn more. They're the people who made it their business to earn more. You see, people do what they make up their minds to do. So get rid of the ancient superstition once and for all that people who earn big money are special people, are lucky, or get the breaks, or had money to begin with, or knew someone, or are smarter, or anything else. These are alibis. They can all be disproved 1,000 times. The reason there are so many of these alibis around is that men who fail to make the grade financially are seldom honest enough to just admit that they really didn't try and keep trying. So in order to justify their failure, in order to remain seated, they dream up and pass along these old alibis. We're all self-made, but only the successful will admit it.
The commitments we make to ourselves and to others and our integrity to those commitments is the essence and clearest manifestation of our proactivity. It is also the essence of our growth through our human endowments of self-awareness and conscience. We become conscious of areas of weakness, areas for improvement, areas of talent that could be developed, areas that need to be changed or eliminated from our lives. Then, as we recognize and use our imagination and independent will to act on that awareness, making promises, setting goals, and being true to them, we build the strength of character, the being that makes possible every other positive thing in our lives. It is here that we find two ways to put ourselves in control of our lives immediately. We can make a promise and keep it, or we can set a goal and work to achieve it. As we make and keep commitments, even small commitments, we begin to establish an inner integrity that gives us the awareness of self-control and the courage and strength to accept more of the responsibility for our own lives. By making and keeping promises to ourselves and others, little by little our honor becomes greater than our mood. The power to make and keep commitments to ourselves is the essence of developing the basic habits of effectiveness. Knowledge, skill, and desire are all within our control. We can work on any one to improve the balance of the three. As the area of intersection becomes larger, we more deeply internalize the principles upon which the habits are based and create the strength of character to move us in a balanced way toward increasing effectiveness in our lives.
Get stronger. You can develop the muscle. You can develop the courage muscle. You can develop the inspiration muscle. You can develop the dedication muscle. You can get stronger. There isn't anybody here that can't get stronger. Next time we see you, may not even recognize you. How strong you're going to be able to become in language, in style, in personality, the ability to cope, the ability to handle with anything that happens, no matter what happens. And the third one is get better. We can all get better. I've gotten better. First talk I gave, I stood up, my mind sat back down. But here's the secret to my success. I stood up and did it again. Stood up and I did it again. And I did it again and I did it again all those many years ago. I did it when I was scared and I did it when I didn't want to and I did it when I was ill. And I did it when it didn't work well and I did it when they didn't appreciate it. And I didn't a lot of times when I didn't know much what I was doing. I just did it anyway. And now, all these years later, I'm asked to walk on this stage with the greatest introduction I've ever had, greatest response and welcome I've ever had, the greatest opportunity I've ever had to touch this many lives with a mixture of words and heart and soul. I got better. I got better day by day and week by week and month by month, and I'm asking you to do the same thing until you can develop a long arm and a long reach, until you can develop influence that won't quit. Touch people next year you couldn't touch this year. Touch people now you couldn't touch before. Conduct a meeting now you couldn't conduct before. Heart and soul now mixed in there that wasn't there, missing before. I'm asking all of you to get better in spite of the winters, in spite of the downturn. The money downturn, the social downturn, the personal downturn, whatever it is. Just get stronger. Get better. The key is not to wish for a better winter. The key is to wish for more strength, more wisdom, more courage, get better, get wiser, get stronger.
Every single day that we wake up, we have been gifted the opportunity of choice. You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be sad. I don't care what your situation is. You should never allow your situation to define who you are as a person. The outside is the physical manifestation of what goes on inside the brain. Things do not just happen. No one just rear-ends your car. You don't just become broke. Broke is a mindset. Things don't just happen. Your pocketbook is not just below balance or on zero. You're not just overweight, just by chance you're just overweight. Things don't just happen.
Your words can trip you. What you say can cause you to stumble. It can keep you from your potential. You're not snared by what you think. Negative thoughts come to us all. When you speak them out, you give them life. That's when they become a reality. When you say, I'll never get back in shape, it becomes more difficult. You just made it harder. When you say, I never get any good breaks, that stops the favor that was ordained for you. If you say, I'm not that talented, I don't have a good personality, that is setting the limits for your life. That is calling in mediocrity.
So the recognition that negative thinking and unhappy states actually do nothing to change anything. If anything, they make it worse. So if there's enough awareness and you can suddenly look at that, and then you can ask yourself from the deeper perspective of awareness, do I want to continue to think these thoughts? Is that helpful or good? Do I really want that?
Ask yourself, what is my limiting step? What is the one factor that determines the speed at which I achieve my goal, or whether I achieve it at all? Once you've answered this question, you can move on to making a plan for how to accomplish your goals by eliminating this limiting factor. Your ability to identify your limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your intelligence. And your capacity to eliminate this limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your overall competence in achieving anything you want.
It's our thoughts that are manifesting this world. Now you could say that's a spiritual thing, and now I say not only is it spiritual, now it is fundamental basic science of the universe. And it says then the thoughts are creative. Well, if the thoughts are creative, then who is having the thought? And you start to realize I'm having the thought. Well, then the truth is simple. As Richard Conn Henry said, you are creating this world with your mental activity and your spirituality combined. And then all of a sudden it says, well, then if I'm creating the world, then my original belief that when things didn't go right, I was a victim. The universe wasn't supporting me. You know, it's like, oh, I try so hard and the universe is not giving me things. It turns 180 degrees around. And it basically says this: we are creating this world. And then I say your mind is creating this world.
Although you cannot change conditions or circumstance, you don't have to let them control you. We can't control what's going on outside, but we can control what's going on inside. You know, and unfortunately, I don't think many of us have been raised to really understand that. And it's a lack of understanding that's causing all our problems. We are the only creature on the planet that's totally disoriented in her environment. All the little squirrels, the birds, all the animals are completely at home in their environment. They blend in. You and I are totally disoriented in our environment. We've been given the mental faculties to create our own environment. However, we go right through school and we've never learned that. We have higher faculties, and the average person has no knowledge of how to operate with them, how to develop them. We have perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, and intuition. Now, those mental faculties, they're not just words, they're actually mental faculties that we can use to take control over our world and to create the environment that we want. But unfortunately, we grow up, we don't know that. We've been raised to live through by what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, our physical senses. And we've been raised to be controlled by what's going on outside. As little kids, will you listen to what I'm telling you? Will you look at this? And so it's all outside. We get our report card, and that tells us what kind of student we are. But it really tells us where our mind was at for a few minutes 3 weeks ago. Got nothing to do with who we are. So I think we're raised in ignorance, actually. There's a very small percentage of the population that have a reasonably clear understanding of who they are and what they're capable of doing. But the ones that do are in the minority.
People think that the purpose of memory is to remember the past. And that's not the purpose of memory. The purpose of memory is to extract out from the past lessons to structure the future. And that's the purpose of personal memory. And so you're done with a memory when you've extracted out the information that you can use to guide yourself properly in the future. So if you have a traumatic memory, for example, that's really obsessing you, if you analyze that memory to the point where you figured out how you put yourself at risk and you can determine how you might avoid that in the future, then the emotion associated with that goes away. So memory has a very pragmatic function. And cultural memory is the same thing, is that we need to extract out stories from our past that structure our future. And we need that because, well, first of all, if you don't have a purpose, let's say, it isn't that your life becomes neutral in a meaningless sense. It's that your life becomes characterized by unbearable suffering, because the baseline condition of life is something like unbearable suffering. And what you have to set against that is a noble and worthwhile purpose. And hopefully your determination of that purpose is buttressed to some degree by the wisdom of the past, because you can't conjure something like that up on your own. And if you provide people with nobility of purpose, then they can tolerate the suffering of existence without becoming entirely corrupted by it. And cultures that don't do that, it isn't even so much that they die, it's that cultures that don't do that are dead. They're done. They don't have a story anymore. They don't have a call to adventure. And then everyone suffers stupidly as a consequence. It's a very bad thing. So Churchill made the same observation that many of the great psychologists and philosophers made in the early part of the 20th century. It's like, bring the story forward and propagate it and make it the most noble possible story. And then you motivate people to transcend themselves, which they need to do. So yes, he's exactly right in his diagnosis.
In order for us to become abundant, we have to overcome the old personality. And that's 95% of who we are, right?
Yes.
So then, the side effect of the beginning of this process is a lot of discomfort. It is a lot of discomfort because you're stepping outside the known into the unknown, and now you can't predict.
It's scary.
No, you'd rather hold on to your lack.
The pain, the suffering.
Rather tell the story of that. At least it makes you feel something that's familiar. Mm-hmm. When you step outside and you're saying, I'm not going to complain about money any longer. I'm not going to complain about I don't have any. I'm not going to judge other people who do. I'm not going to say I can't. I'm not worthy. It's never going to work. All those things got to go. I'm not going to feel lack. I'm not going to feel unworthy. I'm not going to feel separation. I'm not going to feel resentment. These are the things that are keeping my reality the same. Now it's no longer about abundance, it's about who you become.
Mm-hmm. The most successful people are long-term thinkers. They look into the future as far as they can to determine the kind of people they want to become and the goals they want to achieve. They then come back to the present and determine the things that they will have to do or not do. to achieve their desired futures. This practice of long-term thinking applies to work, career, marriage, relationships, money, and personal conduct. Successful people make sure that everything they do in the short term is consistent with where they want to end up in the long term. They practice self-discipline at all times. You see this willingness to sacrifice in people who spend many hours and even years preparing, studying, and upgrading their skills to make themselves more valuable so that they can have a better life in the future rather than spending most of their time socializing and having fun in the present. Your ability to think, plan, and work hard in the short term and to discipline yourself to do what is right and necessary before you do what is fun and easy is the key to creating a wonderful future for yourself. Your ability to think long term is a developed skill. As you get better at it, you become more able to predict with increasing accuracy what is likely to happen to you in the future as the result of your actions in the present. This is a quality of the superior thinker. The common denominator of success was that successful people make a habit of doing the things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. And what were these things? It turned out that the things that successful people don't like to do are the same things that failures don't like to do either. But successful people do them anyway because they know that this is the price they have to pay if they want to enjoy greater success and rewards in the future. Successful people are more concerned with pleasing results, whereas failures were more concerned about pleasing method. Successful, happy people were more concerned with the positive, long-term consequences of their behaviors, whereas unsuccessful people were more concerned with personal enjoyment and immediate gratification. The top people were those who were more concerned with activities that were goal-achieving, whereas average people were more concerned with activities that were tension-relieving